Hello and welcome to another episode of the Adventure Games podcast. This is Shorter Than Bar, and I hope everybody watching is doing well. Now, for this episode, I was delighted to be joined by Claire Morwood, whose game Asterism was recently released a couple of months ago, and she was kind enough to join me on the podcast to talk all about it. Now, Claire is multi-talented. She's a musician, songwriter, singer, artist and game developer and writer, and she spoke to me about how she combined all of her talents to make this game Asterism, which is like a musical adventure game, like an album slash adventure game. And I believe it's also one of the first games to be available on Bandcamp. She explained in more detail as well. So without further ado, here is first of all a trailer for Asterism, followed by my interview with Claire Morwood. So please enjoy. So I am delighted to be joined by Claire Morwood, who is working on a pretty cool, well, let's call it an adventure game. It's a very unique game called Asterism, which is an interactive game slash music video, from what I could see, from what I saw at Adventure X. Well, we have the person here who can tell us more about it. Hello, Claire. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm delighted to for you to join us because, as I was telling you before we started recording, this game that you're going to talk about, it's pretty unique, and it's thanks to my friend and colleague Matt Latham, who knows much more about music than I do. So, if you ever talk to him on his podcast, Gatsby's About Loom, or in his music podcast, he can probably ask you deeper questions about music than than I can. It's not my expertise, but I hope we'll find out more about the game. I'm really looking forward to it as well. But before we talk about your game, Asterism, tell us a little bit about yourself. Do you have any favorite adventure or narrative games?
Yeah, I was thinking about this when like before the podcast, and I think one of my favorite adventure games is Journey, because I really like how the narrative comes through about even like the need for words. It's just like it's a very feelings driven kind of atmospheric game, that still has this like really nice story to it, and like a lot of the story comes through like the mechanics themselves, and it was always like a big inspiration to me in terms of like how you could tell a story through games.
Yeah, I haven't played it myself, but I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Yeah, it's great, and it's not
Uh,
that long. You could play it in an evening very easily.
yeah, no, it's yeah, I played it in the evening. As you say, it's telling a story without words, without
Mhm,
dialogue, which I'm guessing I think it must be difficult. I know there are other games like it, Machinarium and
mhm.
Summerost and other games, even games that I have played that I put. I'm guessing it must be pretty difficult. Is does your game have dialogue as well, or did it take any inspiration from Journey in telling a story without much dialogue? Or
So yeah, it does have some dialogue. It's so the structure of the game is that there's 12 songs that you play through, but in between each song is a sort of like narrative section, which is mostly you talking to another character in the game. Um, I guess like within the music video, the interactive music videos themselves, obviously there's the music and then you're in like the video for it, but a lot of the storytelling that I wanted to do with those comes through I guess like more the setting that you're in, the like the way that you can move within that space. Um and I guess like the metaphors that come from what you can do and what you can't do in each section, which was definitely inspired by those sorts of games.
Perfect. Well, yeah, as I said, looking forward to hearing more about this game. So, t tell us then, because this game, I believe that you are a solo developer. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um,
Yeah.
Now there is music in this game, but first of all, were you always were you game developer first, or are you a musician, or are you well, you're an artist, but are you singer songwriter yourself? So which came first, the game design or game? So I guess what I'm asking, how did you get involved in game
Mhm.
development? Did it come through songs,
Mhm.
or did that come after?
Um, for this project in particular, it was the music that came first. But like I guess like more generally for me, okay, no, more generally for me, it's still like the music that came first. I was always like when I was a teenager, I was always like playing music, just like learning guitar and like trying to write songs in my bedroom and that kind of thing.
So you were
Um,
always creative.
yeah, it was creative, definitely. Um, and then I got more into like game development a little bit later on, and um, had friends that were making games and like taught myself how to program and like use game engines and make art and that kind of thing. And so then I was like making games in my spare time, which became what I do for like my work as well eventually. And then I started to like release small projects of my own, and then I have like a small company as well, Freefield Games that we've released a game called Before I Forget a few years ago. But
I
it wasn't
heard of this
until
game actually.
oh yeah
Sorry, I didn't know it was you that made it.
oh
But I heard,
yeah
I know I pride myself on my research, but actually, no, I have heard of this game. I haven't played it, but I've heard some very good things
oh
about it as well.
oh that's really nice to hear.
No, genuinely,
Oh, thank
which is
you.
great. But yeah, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, not at all. Yeah, so I guess like for a long time it was like more the game development side of it, and then I really wanted a way to sort of like get back into music making and like reconnect with that part of myself. So I started and trying to write music again and learn how to do the digital side of like music recording as well. And that's where at that point I was like, oh well, I want to make music and then I know how to make games now, so maybe I can like combine these two things. And then it sort of then from that point they I guess were quite parallel throughout the development of like a back and forth between the music I wanted to write and the game that I wanted to make.
Fantastic. And I suppose a music question for you then, since you said you played guitar. As I said, more general questions for me about music is, but what kind of music are you into? So what kind of music do you play, and do you like listening to yourself that you are into, I guess?
Mm.
I know, a very
I
general question.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. I like rock music. I like kind of, I don't know, like alternative indie rock, some like electronic stuff. So, bands that I've always liked, like Muse and Radiohead. Like I don't know who else do I like. You know, when someone asks you and then you go
That's
blank.
I've heard of those. I've heard of some of those.
Yeah.
Radiohead, I've heard of.
Yeah, I like some 80s stuff and or like 80s bands that still exist, like The Cure, and like some like synth pop and stuff as well. So I just try and like put some more like electronic-y bits into my music, kind of inspired by some of that. Yeah, some like heavier stuff by like Queens of the Stone Age, System of a Down, those sorts of bands.
Yeah, no, fantastic. No, actually, on the podcast, I forgot as well that Laura Kress, she's actually a DJ in her spare time,
Oh,
as
cool.
well. So, yeah, no, not me. It's I'm not you know creative that way. But no, fantastic. But yeah, no, I think I remember. I'm just seeing here on before I forget. So, you're working on Asterism, but you've just mentioned you worked on Before I Forget, and I
Mhm.
remember I was very interested in this game, and you worked with, and I hope I don't get her name wrong, Chella Ramanan, is it?
Shella Ramanan.
Yeah, I saw her very, very briefly at Adventure X a few years ago. I doubt she remembers me because it was like 5 seconds that we spoke. And yes, how did the two of you meet to work on Before I
Oh,
Forget?
yeah. So we met when we were both living near Bristol. And we went to a game jam that was in Bristol, and we'd never met before that point, but we ended up in a team together. It was us and then one other person, and we that's actually when we started making Before I Forget at the game jam. So I guess like yeah, we made Before I Forget, and then we've just been yeah making that and sort of been friends since then.
Yeah, no, she was there at Adventure X with her other game that I can't remember the name. It's another game I'm interested in, but I was
Mm.
speaking to her very briefly.
Windrush Tales, was it?
That's it. Yeah, no,
Yes.
again, very, at least from the demo that I played, very powerful.
Yes.
Very,
Yeah.
very good from what I played of it. I'm sure the rest of it will because it seems to be good. But before we get to After, because before I forget, I believe it deals with dementia. I believe
Before I forget,
again,
yeah.
yeah, because and that's I'm sure that's a difficult topic to discuss, especially with the video game, because there are still some people who I've met who think that all video games should be fun and
Mhm.
enjoyable. Now, I personally don't necessarily agree. I think video games should be like films or like music or like books, that they are an art form, and I think you can talk about different topics, in my opinion, as long as they're done respectfully.
Mhm.
So I suppose before we get on to Asterism, I'm curious, how did you come about? And if it's too personal, you don't need to answer because I know we didn't prepare for this game.
Yeah.
But how did you come up with this idea for Before I Forget?
Mm. It was largely through Shella. So at the game jam that we were at, the theme of that jam was the word borders. So we were thinking about like what kind of topics we could do to do with borders. And we were thinking at first about kind of like geographical borders, more like physical things. But then we were also talking about like mental sort of barriers, mental borders. And how we could maybe portray something more to do with like the mind in a game. And Shella, I think she had a notebook of ideas that whenever she has an idea of something, she'll like write it down. And she'd had an idea about writing something to do with a woman with dementia. And I'm really interested in like the portrayal of like mental health and um, like yeah, using games as a kind of like experiential expression. So it kind of like clicked for both of us. So it sort of like came from there, just as a like an idea of like this is an interesting thing that the medium of games could be like used in a really interesting way, to talk about.
Yeah, because excuse me, I just finished reading Terry Pratchett's biography, who of
Mm,
course had early onset Alzheimer's, very tragically as well, and how he dealt with that head on, and how he wanted more people to talk about, Alzheimer's and dementia as well, because he was saying that not enough people talk about it,
mm,
and I think the same with games. I think it's like your game Before I Forget. I think it's good if it gets us to think more about these
yeah.
issues that a lot of people have, in their families, but it's maybe not spoken about as much as other things. Um,
Mhm.
and what was the reaction to Before I Forget and its topic in general?
Yeah. In general, like really positive, I think, especially when we took it to events, and found that people were often really keen to have conversations with us after they played it, and they would often be really open about their own experiences, and it would lead to like just really, I don't know, like good conversation with people about like their lives, and yeah, that was really kind of like I don't know, yeah, humbling or like something like that to um talk to people to be like, oh, we've made this thing and now this conversation is happening. It's just like really cool. The I guess on the flip side, the um it was definitely hard at first. This idea of like games covering like serious topics, and should they are they then like it's sometimes categorized as like educational games when that's not really, I mean, I'm sure that, there's educational things in a lot of games, like there's stuff that you learn from a lot of media. But we kind of struggled at the start with people kind of saying, oh, so you're making this like training game for like teaching people how to understand dementia more, or oh, maybe is it like a game that you're making for use in sort of like nursing homes or that sort of thing, which wasn't like the goal. The goal is to make a piece of like media piece of fiction that happens to be about someone with dementia and to tell that person's story. So yeah, it was interesting. I think that that has shifted because this was like a few years ago now, and I think that that is less um, how generally people kind of react to those kind of games, but that's still there a bit for sure.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that some of the reaction was, is this an educational game? And nothing wrong with educational
Mm,
games, but
yeah.
with, say, films about the same topic, about, dementia or Alzheimer's, and I don't see anybody saying, "Oh, is this an educational film?"
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
it's, it's not. You can still tell a good narrative, with this
Yes.
topic. But no, I mean, I remember reading about this game. I think seeing trailers and being interested in it. Well, look, congrats on that game. So you have
Thank you.
experience at least, and that, was generally, from what I can see, it's very good positive reaction to that. That game is Before I Forget, and it's available on Steam, correct?
Yes, it's on Steam, it's on Switch and Xbox as well.
Oh, perfect. So you can get it different places.
Mhm.
Perfect. So that is Before I Forget. So now changing tack to the game that we were supposed to talk about, that the reason we're here to talk about is Asterism. Now, I first saw this game at Adventure X last year, 2 years ago now. By the time this podcast goes out, I didn't get a chance to play it because for me, from what I could see, there's a lot of interest in the game. There's always somebody playing it, and so on. I just went on to to the next game or to walk around as well. And every time I came back, there was always someone there that I could see. So that's a good sign for you, I imagine.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
so tell us first of all about this game, because we kind of danced around this with music and all of that. So what is this game? And yeah, so what is this game? What is this game about?
So I've been describing it as like an interactive music album. It is an album of music that I've written. And the kind of idea is that you're like inside the music videos for each of the songs. So you are the protagonist is Ruby, so you play as Ruby, and she is she's like a researcher who lives in the sun. She's a Solarian, and she's like researching these signals that she's hearing that are coming in from like out in space, and she doesn't know what they are, where they're coming from. Um, but she goes out to like find out more about them. And so then it turns out like these signals they're basically like the songs on the album. So she goes to visit various like planets, locations in space, and when she's there, then like you're inside the music video for that song. And the controls are very like straightforward in that like it's just like arrows and spacebar or like the equivalent on gamepad, but those do different things throughout all the songs. So you kind of like have this really simple control scheme that then you can be quite playful with throughout different levels. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I
um,
think so.
yeah. So and then it's kind of I guess narratively, um, it's a lot. I what did I call it? Like a journey of self-discovery. It's quite a personal album, so it's a lot about like anxiety, sort of like mental health, and I mean, it's a lot about reconnecting with music for me, and that comes through in some of the songs and some of the narrative, like reconnecting to this younger version of yourself that you've like lost touch with, um, as you like get further away from your home.
So if you're reconnecting with music, had you disconnected in any way from music in the past, or?
Yeah, I think I had I used to play a lot. And then I think I just lost a lot of confidence with it, and I got like super self-conscious about sharing like anything that I'd written with anyone else. And it became this really like thing that I was like hiding, and I just like couldn't really, I don't know, because like music's supposed to be for sharing. Um, and then, but I just like every time I picked up a guitar, it was like, oh, this doesn't sound right, and I would like put it down again. Um, and then I saw like other people around me making music and like having a great time with it. And I thought, well, I should be able to do that as well. Because I've been able to in the past. So uh I thought if I make this project that's like an album that I've written and it's all the gameplay is about that, then that kind of forces me to I have to then write it and share it with people. So that's kind of why I did it.
Yeah, no, because it can be daunting to share,
Hmm.
any piece of art that we make with the outside world because, I'm sure, like nobody likes criticism. I don't
Hmm.
think, we can deal with criticism in different ways. But for myself, when I first started the podcast and I interviewed, well, Francisco Gonzalez and Dave Gilbert, I was shocked that they said yes to come on the podcast first. But then when I was listening back, and I wasn't used to listening to my own voice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just thought, oh, this is terrible. Again, nothing on them. They were fantastic and they really helped, the pub because I didn't have much confidence in myself back then. And I was very close not to uploading those interviews because I was
Mm.
so scared of what the reaction would be.
Hmm.
But then I did it because I thought, no, I've promised these people, I've interviewed them, and I promised them that I'm going to upload, so I'm going to do it. It might be just them that I interview, but then the reaction was generally positive. So I think in that sense, I can sort of understand that you really have to force yourself at times to
Hmm.
share any piece of art that you create because, criticism can be a bit daunting when we get it. Nobody, I think, likes it. But no, well, I think I'm delighted. I'm sure many other people are delighted that you've done this. So did you write this music album? Was it for the game, or did you write the music album first? So did you have this idea of music and the game to begin with?
No, I didn't. Initially, I just wanted to write music. And I wrote maybe about
Okay.
three, or like at least drafted like maybe three or four songs before I started thinking about like the concept of like doing an album at all. And then the idea of like putting it in some kind of playable format as well. And after that point, I guess I started thinking about like the album more structurally in terms of what songs would go where and based on that, what kind of things would like fill the gaps that I'd left, and how the pacing across the whole game and whole album would feel, which was helpful in, uh, I guess, deciding what other kinds of songs to write as well.
Yeah, no, no, fantastic. And so, apologies if you've already answered the question, but how did you get the idea then to just make a game based on the music album itself? Because I know you just said there that you wanted to see about the pacing and all of that in the game,
Mhm.
but how exactly or did you get a light bulb moment to go, oh, I could make a game based around the album, and then you might think, oh, this is actually a pretty good idea. So how did that idea come about?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember like the order of events. I could tell you some things, but I'm not quite sure like which one happened when. But so I guess one thing was that I've always really liked music videos. I used to like watch them a lot. I'd get home from school and then just like put on like the music video channels and just like sit there for hours watching them.
I did the
Um,
same.
yeah, it was great. I would like make myself mix tapes on like VHS of the music videos that I liked. Um, but yeah, so I guess I often have that kind of like visual in my head when I'm either like listening or like writing music. And I suppose I'd like to have been thinking about interactivity and playfulness a lot over the last like while I've been making games. So it kind of like, mm, what was I thinking? Let me. I guess like another thing that kind of inspired it was just like if you're just like sitting on a train or in a car or something and you're listening to music and you're kind of like looking out the window and you're just like really zoned into it. And then if it's a piece of music you're really familiar with, often you'll like end up picking out layers and picking out parts that you don't hear every time, but like sometimes you'll kind of zone more into like one section of it than another. And that in itself feels like really playful to me, like you're exploring it. So I think I was thinking about that as well, like how can you explore music with like your mind, but also how could you explore that if it was in like a more some kind of more physical like gamey format? Is there something you could do with like the visuals with like layers coming in or different directions you could take? The one of the original ideas I had for the way the game would work is that it was like a big circle and then you're in the middle and that's like where the music starts and then you can kind of like move outwards. I don't think I'm going to explain this very well.
No, I
But
think I can
basically you can
I can get a visual of it, I think.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
and then so you can just like kind of change direction and then like as it goes out there's like multiple different like I guess parallel locations and parallel like visuals that you could be at depending on like where you are in the music because it's all it's like 3.5 minutes or whatever long you can like time the visuals to match where the music is so you could like have your own like direct your own experience visual experience of the song. That was kind of where it started in terms of thinking about interactivity. Um, and then I was thinking about like other music games, a lot of which were things like rhythm games. Um, and the one thing that made me realize is that I didn't want to make something where like you would ever be interrupted during the music because in a rhythm game often it's very skill based, and if you don't do very well then it takes you back to the start of the music. Or sometimes it's like the music sounds worse if you're not doing very well because it like I don't know like Guitar Hero or something. It's like it just
Hmm.
sounds it doesn't sound good until you're hitting the buttons in the right way. But I wanted to make something that was more focused on uh you really like I don't know in a flow with the music, the experience of like listening to the music rather than hitting sort of a skill level in order to progress. It was just like you can kind of dance to it, you can explore to it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm on board with that because I played Parappa the Rapper as a
Okay.
child, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I spent hours on it, but I don't think I finished the game because, as you say, we rhythm games. They were never for me. So it's good to hear that for musically uninspired people like me, we should be able to get through this game. So,
Yeah,
uh, so
absolutely.
so you mentioned that the controls were it spoke a little bit that it's not really a rhythm game, is it? It doesn't take it's not about skill,
No.
about music. So how would you? And again, I know you already talked about a little bit with the controls, but how are these music videos interactive then? Are they? Is there a variety in the different? Or so presumably the videos are different. So how
Mhm.
how do you go about interacting them
Mm.
if they aren't rhythm based? Which I myself am glad about.
Yeah, I mean, there's occasional kind of like rhythm adjacent components. Like there's things that you can do that if you do them on the beat, it will like look good, but it was never gonna like penalize you for doing it wrong. And
Sure.
so like you could just sit there and not press anything, and the music would still the level would finish. But the interactivity comes in you kind of like making it more interesting. So you can there's like quite a lot of different interactions, but for example, you can like move the character, which sounds really simple. But you could leave them and they'll just probably like go forward in a straight line, but you can explore the space. You can like, direct where the camera's looking, to sort of make this music video your own, to make it something that's like playful. There's other sections where you're I guess so like as well as moving, you could be like changing I don't know, like the shape or size of something. You could be like a lot of it is movement actually. A lot of it is kind of like I suppose because it's
Okay. Yeah.
inspired by like dancing and exploring. There's one level where the interaction is it's all kind of origami based, and so you're like folding and unfolding origami as well, just by like tapping. Um, so it's a lot of just like changing visuals and sort of exploring spaces.
Okay, and it's the music you mentioned. I think that you're into indie rock, and that's what you. Is it mostly indie rock, the type of music that is in the game, or there are different types?
Yeah, I would say so. I find it's like when you make something yourself and then you're like so in the bubble with it that you're like I don't know
Sure.
what it is. But yeah, that from what I when I've asked friends, that's what they say. So I think so.
Yeah, no, just to give people.
Guitars and
Yeah,
stuff.
look, and and I know there's always a discussion about what is an adventure game and genre,
Mhm.
and I'm kind of like, well, look, first of all, is the game good? And I think that's probably the same with music. Is it, from what I've heard, from the trailer, from what I've heard, it sounds like something I would be interested in as well.
Cool, thank you.
So, and then the story, then, that you said it's a personal story, but is it sci-fi, or is that just a way to tell the story? Is this, are you sci-fi, are you a fan of
Um,
sci-fi, or is that not part of what the game is?
I would say it's not necessarily sci-fi.
Sure.
Like it's set in space, and you're like visiting these planets, but there's not really, I wouldn't say it's based in science. It's probably more based in like feelings and emotion than it's
Okay.
based in science. It's just a setting to like, I don't know, to have that atmosphere. I think space is like a really good setting for like self-reflection and like I don't know, existentialism. It's just like has,
Yeah.
it's like you're all alone in this faraway place and it makes you think.
I think that's a very good point, actually. Yeah, that you are just up there in space. It's so vast, it's never ending, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, kind of think, well, what is the meaning of life, really? uh,
Yeah. There's like a couple of like, I don't know, the most sciencey it gets is like there's a little display on the in the UI of like how far away from the sun you are in kilometers. And I've tried to be accurate with that. So like, when you get to not that it never names the planets, well, except for one, I think, but by name, but like, they're named by the song, but they kind of represent planets. And so when you're at like the one that represents like Jupiter or Saturn, then that like distance is going to be like accurate, I think, to how far away you would be
oh,
at that point. So
you're
there's
going to
like
get
stuff like that.
someone on the internet saying, well, actually, I think
Oh,
you'll
that's fine.
find
But
that.
that's okay because it's never named as the actual planet. So
Oh, that's fine. Yeah,
yeah.
I think it wouldn't take this long to get there, and I think you're going too fast for.
Oh, I mean the time that it takes. I did actually do like an early prototype where I was like, okay, so if you're traveling like at the speed of light, and you're traveling out from the sun, then I did a big spreadsheet like how long is it going to take you to get to each of these planets? And then I tried it out in Unity, and then it just didn't work. It was just like this is not a fun experience for like if it was like a simulation, like sure. But for what I'm making, like
Yeah, exactly.
but it was
It's
good
a
to try
game.
out.
It's a game.
Yeah.
It's fiction. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but yeah, no, that's fantastic. Now, what we haven't spoken about the visuals of the game, because
Mm.
the audio, I'm pretty sure will be good based on your experience. And based on experience telling, making other games, I'm sure it'll be a really good personal story as well. But the visuals in this game are very interesting.
Mm.
And again, I wanted to ask you about them because, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this game handcrafted? Did you make this game entirely by hand? And how did you go about doing it?
Yeah, it's not entirely by hand, but like a lot of it, especially some of the earlier I'd say I'm trying to think. I think there's like one level where like nothing is handmade. But every other level has, or maybe two, one or two, but every other level is either like entirely or largely like handmade. So that's, and when I say handmade, that's like claymation and papercraft and just like kind of collage, like mixed media, cardboard and fabric and whatever I have kind of lying around the house. And the reason the reason I make stuff like that is because I just really like making stuff out of crafts. I really like using my hands, and it's like a nice way to get away from the screen sometimes as well.
Mm.
Um, and also it's kind of quick. I find it quick. I like making games that are in 3D, like in a 3D world. I don't really like 3D modeling. I'm not very good at it, and I find it really frustrating. So I try to do it as little as possible, but I still want to make a game that's like in a 3D space. So I really like using 2D stuff that just like on a like a 3D like plane or
Mm.
like a it's in a 3D dimension. But most of the stuff is actually just like photographs of things that I've drawn in real life or like crafted. Um and I think it has a cool effect and I don't know, it's not like a style that you see that often. But I just personally find it like really easy to work like that and yeah, it's just like enjoyable, enjoyable to make.
Oh no, that's great to hear. It's enjoyable because I'm guessing it's more work to make it handcraft than using a computer now. What most developers, most people use, and I just finished playing Harold Halibut. I don't know if
Mhm.
you played it or and I
I played
think
a bit, yeah.
yeah, it is hand. I think there. It's not exactly handcrafted. It is, but they do something else as well. I mean, it looks
Hmm.
fantastic. And again,
Mm.
I think it took them 7, 8 years at least to make. And after playing the game, I can see why. Because
Yeah.
I mean, that's a compliment, because it's such a huge amount of work goes into it. So at least you say you like it. And then how did you go? Because I can visualize you. Use handcraft and making the characters and these worlds and all. How did you go about make this might be a stupid question. How did you go about making it into a game then? how,
Yeah.
how did you put the handcraft models and making a game out of it? So presumably
Mm.
use cameras and that, and I'm just fascinated by the whole process.
Yeah. Yeah, so my general setup is I just use my my phone camera as like the camera. I have a light box, like a it's like a big um box that has lights in it. And so like, with it like a screen so that you can get rid of the background and when you like put it into the computer. So I'll take photographs of whatever I've made, um, and then edit them to remove the backgrounds, and then I can just like uh take those images. And what I do a lot of is I do a lot of like very short like frame animations. So I'll have like an animation of someone walking, but it's maybe only like, 2 to 4 frames long. So it's quite what's the word? Low, I don't know, yeah, low frame rate, I suppose, in that way. Um, which saves a lot of time. I think you hear about these like really big claymation games and films and how they've taken like huge budgets and a lot of time to make. But I think if I tried to make something like that, it would obviously take a long time. I try and do things in a way that's like realistic for me, which means that I'll do, I won't go for like really high polished quality and I won't go for like really high frame rate. I'll just try and make something that's like, it's why I have like the collaged kind of style as well, because then it's like not everything really needs to match. I can just layer things up and it because it's all collaged, it all kind of fits. If everything doesn't, if everything is designed to not really fit together, then it ends up fitting together, I think.
Yeah, I
But
get you actually. I think it.
yeah, um, yeah. So I'm not sure if I've answered your question about
No,
like
I
how
think
I've
yeah,
made
yeah.
games.
No, it's as I said, I'm just fascinated by by the process that,
Hmm.
I'm sure it would be probably more and making games is already a huge amount of work, but this to handcraft them first of all, but I mean, you can tell it's a labor of love because it's you said that you find it enjoyable and I think it looks different to other games as well.
Hmm.
And then to make the game, what can you tell us what engine or what tool did you use just to make it as a game with all
Yeah,
the
I used
handcraft models?
I used the Unity game engine to make the game, and I used Photoshop for the editing, but I think the stuff I was doing in Photoshop is not like you could use anything. You could any apart from like paint, because I don't know about modern paint actually, but I don't think it has like transparency in layers, but it might do in the modern one. I don't know. I'm thinking about like Windows 95 paint, but you could use like any of the free versions. Um, and then like I guess for the music, if that's interesting to people as well, I used Ableton Live, but I also for when I was like first doing my like drafts of the music, I use this free digital audio workstation called LMMS, which is pretty good. Um, yeah, so yeah, what else did you ask? What engine I used?
Yeah, no, that answered the
Yeah,
question exactly,
yeah.
and then some. I didn't ask about the audio, but you
Okay.
again, as I said, my no, but it's great because, as I said, my knowledge of audio and music isn't certainly what you know and or what Matt or Laura know. So thank you for answering that as well. You made the question better, so I know what I'm talking about. No, but it's fantastic. It looks fantastic then as well. And so then, all of that together. Do you know how many songs are in the game and on the album, or can you tell us? So they're all different
Mhm.
levels. from what I understand. And do you know more or less how many we can explore in the game?
Yeah, so there's a demo of the game which is out at the moment. You can like on Steam, and that has 3 levels in. And then in the full game, there's going to be 12. So that's like there's one intro level that's in the sun. And on that one, it is a bit more like narrative. You're like talking to characters, and you can take as long as you want in that level, and the music will repeat. But every level beyond that is just timed to the music. So it's like you begin and then it'll, you'll be in the introduction. You can do some kind of whatever mechanics is happening at that point, and then like the verse will kick in, and now you're kind of like transported into like the next section, and then the chorus comes in. Now you're in another section, so it's all very like timed in that way until the end of the song, and then you get this interlude kind of narrative bit in between. So yeah, in total there's 12 songs that you play through.
Perfect. And so I believe the game it's a couple of hours. I think I read on Steam.
Yeah, hour and a half.
Correct.
Or, yeah, so something like that.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean, I personally, I really enjoy short games because it means I can play them in a one sitting.
Hmm.
And I know that there's a discourse. I know getting quite tired of it that people are saying, "Oh, games should be 100 hours." I'm like, well, I'm not going to. They're probably great, but I'm not going to play them probably because probably don't play
Yeah.
100 hours in a year or two.
Hmm.
So I'm delighted that it's, 2 hours. So thank you for that.
Oh, that's okay. I
Um,
mean, I couldn't make something. I don't have the
yeah, like
resources to make
this,
something that
I can
big.
imagine, if you're making clay or, handcrafted like this, it's, even the fact that it's 2 hours, it's probably still taking you a huge amount of time
Mm.
to
Mhm.
do anyway. So that's great. And do you have a release date more or release window for Asterism? Again,
Yeah, so
don't
I'm
put
hope
me on the spot, but
no, no,
you,
no.
you can say when it's out, when it's ready.
I am hoping to announce a release date very soon. I've been like working on my announcement trailer and stuff, so it's kind of just like waiting until the right time. But it's hopefully going to be early next year. But I won't say just yet. But I will announce something soon.
Okay, so you're hoping it's been 2025 in case this
Yeah,
interview goes out
definitely
2025.
very early 2025 for sure.
Lovely. And no, that's fantastic. And then I just see on the Steam page, so that is Asterism, and it's on Steam as well.
Mhm.
Do you have any plans to port the game to Switch or Xbox, or is it just going to be PC for now?
For now, it's going to be on PC, and it's kind of going to depend on because it's just me. It's kind of going to depend on like how that goes, and then if like if it goes well, then I might have the resources available to do some porting. But yeah, it
Sure.
will depend.
I think that's
Depend on how well
understandable.
it
If
does.
it's just you, you've no big company
Yeah.
behind you.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
No, no, that's fantastic. And so that is Asterism coming out hopefully early 2025, but
Mhm.
we shall see. Now, the last thing I wanted to ask you, I know it kept you a while now, but I see also that says that you like to empower others through workshops on game development, and so what can you tell us about this? So what kind of workshops have you worked on to help others? What can you tell us about those workshops? I'm just curious myself for
Yeah.
any aspiring
Um,
game developers or anyone who wants to learn more.
yeah, I think I kind of got into I don't know, making like pretty small games and then finding ways of like making games where you don't need to like code and in a way that's like quite accessible to people when I first got into the tool Bitsy a few years ago, which if anyone listening is not aware, Bitsy is an online game making tool which you can find on itch.io, and it's like you can use it for making kind of like pixel art narrative games. So the basic mechanics are like you move around a pixel kind of top down grid, and you can talk to people, and then you can edit like what those people say. You can like go to different rooms. You can change it a lot, and people have done really cool like experimental things just like within the constraints that Bitsy has. And I got really like into Bitsy and like really enjoyed like making things and found it quite like a freeing way of making stuff. It was like really great to be able to like make and actually finish something. I think because it had these like really tight constraints around it, it meant that you could be really experimental and like really explorative within that. And I just found it really like I don't know, like liberating as like a game making experience. So I really wanted to share it with other people. And I wrote a tutorial about it, which got like shared around a bit. And then um I think from that I started doing workshops and then kind of being asked more and more to do these like introduction to game making through Bitsy workshops. So I did them at like I don't know, I've done a few for like I don't know, all sorts of different people for like kids and adults and people who have made games before, people who hadn't made games before. Um, and it's just great seeing seeing people make stuff and like, running this thing and at the end you get to play a bunch of cool games. I used to run game jams as well, which hopefully I would like. Oh, I guess I have done some recently as well. I used to have like a regular yearly one called Fuse Jam, that I ran back in Bristol. Which again, it's just like cool. Like if you can organize a thing and then at the end of the thing you get to like play a bunch of games, that's like it's great. And
Yeah, no,
like
it's
yeah, help other
fantastic.
people to make games.
And
Yeah.
and you don't need to use code. You mentioned, is that
For
correct?
Bitsy, yeah, for Bitsy, you don't. There is like some optional, additional like code kind of stuff that you can do, but you absolutely don't need to do that.
Okay, I might check it out myself. If you don't
Yeah,
need to use
do.
code, and if it's small and contained, that might be just exactly what I need. So you might see me around there.
Yes, do it. Let me know if you make anything. I'd
Absolutely.
love to play.
No, absolutely. No, very curious about that. And I think it's great about this community as a whole that everyone is so helpful that it's not really that people are competing with each other. Like they don't say, "Oh no, don't buy that game, just buy mine." No, it's like, "Oh yeah, buy my game and the others as well." And here's how and developers that like yourself help each other, which is what I found when from the beginning when I started this podcast, and it's really great to see as well, and really positive. I feel so. No, that's great. So yeah, so that as I said, the game is Asterism. I'm sure we'll be reviewing it on the podcast because it sounds. I'm pretty sure that Matt will want to play it anyway, and myself. He'll probably, and I think it's fun because we'll probably get different things out of it. That Matt, who understands music more, he'll probably get have another experience, and I like listening to music and games. Probably have another, but it's fantastic, and I'm really intrigued, and looking forward to playing it. So, is there anything else that you would like to mention that we haven't covered or that I haven't? I know I've kept you a while now, but there isn't anything or anything else you'd like to say.
Um, I don't know. There is just like thanks for having me. It's really cool to chat and like yeah, be part of the like adventure games community. Yeah, no, it's great. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
no, thank you for coming on and for making this game as well, and for helping others. It really is great, and I mean, this hour has flown by for me,
Yeah,
but I
definitely.
promise I wouldn't keep you much longer than an hour, so I better let you go. Sorry, where can people find out more about you?
Oh
If
yeah,
yes, I,
that's a good point. Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky mostly. I also have an
yeah, me
Instagram.
too. Now going
Yeah,
to
yeah, I
using
deleted
Blue
most of it
Sky
the other
mostly.
day. Yeah, so I'm Shimmer Glitch on both of those. And then I have a website which is my old handle, which is shimmerwitch.space. So shimmerwitch.space and then Shimmer Glitch on social media.
Perfect. Well, we'll include links as well. But yeah, no, huge thanks for the game is Asterism, and I'll include links to that as well. And again, I keep saying this to people listening, for you and for other games is wishlist. I've heard that helps
Yes, please.
a lot. And get the
That would be
game
great.
when it's out because we want you to make more games and
Thank
music.
you.
And yeah, well, look, the very, very best of luck with the game. I look forward to playing it. I hope it does well. I hope a lot of people play it and buy it because it's something that's very creative and very different. And that's what we want. We want at a time when triple A's are not going great overall, I'd say it's great that
Mhm.
indies and solo developers like yourself are taking risks and making these great looking and sounding games. So thank you so much, Claire, and yeah, I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great.
So that was my interview with Claire. A huge, huge thank you to Claire for agreeing to come on to this podcast and talking about her game and so much more. And I hope you enjoyed that interview as well. And so thank you for watching and thank you for your support of this podcast. And yeah, that's it for this episode. We'll be back with reviews. We'll be reviewing Old Skies, Rosewater, Blueprints, and so much more with the team, but on the YouTube channel and anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, yeah, just anywhere, Podbean, anywhere you listen to podcasts as well. And I'll be looking to upload more videos on this YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of these videos and interviews and other episodes. And thank you. We also have a Patreon. We are an independent podcast. And as I'm sure many people know, independent uh, game journalism is really, really difficult to do. So your help is really, really appreciated. But if not, share these links really, really helps as well, both us and the people we interview. So thank you again for watching and for your support, and I'll talk to you very soon. Take care, everyone.